You're in tune with 9 to noon. Brett Blakemore says there's a Shams bomb. Whoa!
It involves your Minnesota Timberwolves.
No way! What's going on?
Maybe the breaking news bit was right.
Okay.
But it's not LeBron.
Oh,
come on.
Free agent guard Mike Conley has agreed to a one-year deal to sign with the Boston Celtics.
No!
Conley becomes the 14th player in NBA history to reach 20 seasons. He will do it with the Boston Celtics
Come
out east.
on, man. He's Minnesota Mike. The Boston Mike. Come, Rosie. Damn it. You guys are the same age, Rose.
Man.
What was your favorite Mike Conley in Minnesota moment? Copyright Dan Barrett.
Probably when he got traded and then immediately came. We all, threw flowers at his feet. I wrote a very emotional post about how much he meant to the fans here, and then within 24 hours, he was back on the roster and in the rotation.
He was in studio with Dan Barrero once, and it was like kind of building up to the season. And, they were doing the bit, talking about Ant, how do you unlock Ant?
Right.
And one of the texters said, ask about his hole-in-one. And I'm like, well, I think Dan's going to stick to the A topic, which he should. So I go in during break, and I'm like, you got to tell me about your hole-in-one. If you would have seen his face light up at me asking, he's like, I hit a 5-iron, it was perfect. And it was fantastic. He's a good dude.
He's a great dude. And he's a Call of Duty guy. Like, he loves big-time gamer.
We would be friends.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Golf and video games. Like, come on.
Yeah. And not to, obviously we're messing around, but Mike Conley was part of the ushering in of a new era with this Minnesota Timberwolves team. He was kind of that veteran presence in the room, and he kind of was able to calm things down and unlock a different level for this Minnesota Timberwolves team when he came mid-season a few years ago. So shout out to Mike Conley, man, and he gets one last, who knows? I mean, we've been saying one last dance for like 3 years now with Mike Conley, but he at least gets one more chance at a ring with the Boston Celtics over there. So shout out to Minnesota Mike. We will
This is a guy who was an all-star, 14th guy to play 20 years.
Wow.
My goodness.
I mean, that's impressive stuff right there. Yeah. You had me fooled for a second, Blakemore.
I'm glad he's playing some more.
Yeah, for sure.
I did wonder this year of is he at the point now where he'd be sort of like the player coach kind of role? That doesn't really exist, but how and once the 20-year career ends, can he come back here as a coach?
Yeah.
Can we get him back on the staff or something? It feels like he belongs here.
It really does. It doesn't feel right. I mean, he's not from here, but he feels like one of us.
Most of his career with Memphis.
Right, exactly. But it feels like he's from here. It feels like he's one of us, and he wasn't just like the Timberwolves uncle. He felt like Timberwolves fans' uncle that we all knew and loved and appreciated. I mean, he's obviously not like a significant, crazy contributor last season, but we were all devastated when we heard that he had gotten traded. So, I mean, good for him, but it doesn't feel right. And I'm hoping, like you said, he can come back in a different role.
It's not just been length. He was an all-star one year with the Jazz.
Right.
Defensive Player of the Year, candidate several years while he's with Memphis. He's had a hell of a career. So.
He really has, man. He just is that elusive NBA championship, but maybe he gets a chance at it with the old Boston.
Yeah, that's not a bad one to try.
Right, exactly. So
Jaylen Brown's still there, right? They got the double threat now.
As far as
triple threat with Mike Conley.
Right, exactly. The super team damn near now adding Mike Conley over there, and we're never going to wish Boston the best.
No,
that's gross. But we're going to wish Mike Conley the best over there with the Boston Celtics. Doesn't feel right, but it feels right having you, John Bonus, in the studio.
That's nice.
The geek himself, twinsdaily.com. You have as many websites as Shaq has commercials. How do you even keep track of all of them, John Bonus? Do you write? How much time?
I'm a multi-viewer. I don't do nearly as good a job of keeping track of all of them as I should be. I fortunately have a lot of really good editors who can take care of that stuff for us. So.
How often do you get to do writing yourself these days, John Bonus? And if you were a writer right now for twinsdaily.com, what is the headline of the Twins season thus far?
That's a good question. Let's see. The answer to the first question is almost never. I write when I have to write. Once a month, I have to be the editor for the weekend, and my weekend is coming up. So that if breaking news happens, I might be pulled into some stories. And frankly, with the trade deadline happening, it's all hands on deck whenever there's breaking news. Right. Let's see. What would my headline be? I mean, I think I would probably be something about, it's time to see the kids. We've got the goal for coming into this season outside of, hey, let's win some games and maybe make the postseason, which is the number one goal every year. Like, I'll just say that's always should be the goal.
For sure.
The second goal coming out of this season was one way or the other. I want to know what the core is for 2027 and beyond. Like, what is this team looking like for 2027 and beyond? And the Twins had enough, high upside prospects at sort of the AAA level, or guys who had touched the majors and had success, but then maybe didn't, or, been exposed to the majors for a little bit, to sort of be able to take a look at the end of the season and say, okay, this is what this team is going to be like going forward. We're past the Correa era. That ended last year. Yeah. What do we got going forward? And if they're a competitive team, like if they're a good, they're 5, 6, 7 games, whatever, that problem takes care of itself, because you don't have a good team without having good players, and now you know what your core is. Right? This team's kind of been in the middle, and while we've gotten a taste of what that core looks like from a starting rotation or from a pitching standpoint, I don't think we have any idea really what it looks like from a hitting standpoint necessarily. A lot of the guys that we were kind of like, okay, these guys have been in the league for 2-3 years. They had some initial success, but now we'll see if they're ready to take a step forward to be like, we just count on these guys. They're a middle of the order, or a guy we want on the field every day. A lot of those guys haven't really panned out. Wallner was sent down to AAA. Royce Lewis was sent down to AAA. He's called back up. Now I think the jury's still out. Maybe he still is that guy. He's had enough of a bounce back after that hard reset. That Brooks Lee, well, we learned he's not going to be playing shortstop, so, right. But on the other end, maybe he can hit enough to play third base, something like that. But we also have Larnach. Is good, but also he's only got a year left around. But also we've got a whole bunch of guys sitting at AAA that, if you go into the Saints game tonight or this week, you can see, the biggest one, the most obvious one is Kalen Culpepper, who was the number 1 draft pick a couple years ago. He's looks like a starting shortstop in Major League Baseball. And we could use a shortstop on the Minnesota Twins. I'm very anxious to see him get called up. He just came back from a week and a half or something on the IL. And then it started Sunday on the road, and then started last night and got hit in the hand by a pitch. And was taken out of the game. And it doesn't sound like there were like anything's broken, but we'll see how soon he gets back. You've got Walker Jenkins, who almost hit for the cycle last night. He's the number 1. He was the number 5 overall pick and the Twins' number 1 pick a few years ago. He's been running around center field, and he's 21 years old, playing at AAA and doing well. Like, he could be a legit star. We'd sure like to see him up here. You've got Alan Roden, who they acquired from the Blue Jays last year. He's been doing really well at AAA after getting back from. You've got Emmanuel Rodriguez. He's on the IL down to St. Paul. We won't see him very soon. But you've got a bunch of guys like that you're kind of like, and Luke Keeschel, can Luke Keeschel take a step forward? Now he's been moved to right field because they're kind of, worried about his defense at second base, and they should be. You've just got enough guys like that you're taking a look and you're really like, can we compete this year and still get them into the lineup enough so that we feel like we can compete or have a core for 2027 and 2028 and 2029 for the next, serious Twins team.
Well, and that's kind of the conundrum they find themselves in, right? Because they're not. They're not the team they kind of are the team we thought they were, but not at the same time. Right. They're exceeding expectations, but that's because expectations were at -100 heading into the season. But they're not that far out from a wild card spot, right? It is the AL Central we're talking about here. They're not really that far out from possibly taking the AL Central crown. I mean, so when do you factor in these young guys?
Exactly right. I think they're 4 games under 500, which puts them, on pace for like 8 games under 500, which is about what we sort of expected them to be. But the whole American League is so bad,
right?
That the last wild card spot is been a 500 team or an under 500 team all season, and so as a result of that, the league has kind of come to them. Yeah. And as a result of that, it will be interesting to see what happens as we get a little closer to the trade deadline. They've got, 3 series here before the All-Star break, or 4 if you count today's game versus Houston. they've got one more game versus Houston, who's another team that might be competing for a wild card spot. Then you go to the horror stadium, the Yankees Stadium, right, where they're going to face Garrett Cole or Rodon, and it's
great.
It's going to be, if they could get, the game today versus Houston and 1 of 3 versus the Yankees and come out of that, go into next week's homestand, 4 games under 500, or 5 games under 500, which is what they're. They've got Cleveland coming here. Maybe do well then. You got the Angels coming here. Do well there. You go into the All-Star break, maybe 2-3 games under 500.
Okay.
Then you got 2-3 weeks before the trade deadline to try and show that you are, in this thing. And it'll be especially interesting to do that given that ownership, the new Pohlad ownership, has been saying since he jumped on board, he wants to see a competitive team. He wants to see them compete into September, and he's willing to back it up with dollars. Because what we have seen is a lot of changes, especially on the business side, but we have not seen it been backed up with dollars on the baseball side. So it'll be interesting to see how all in he's willing to go and how all in, Jeremy Zoll, who's the new GM, and Derek Shelton, the new manager. We got a whole new team over there, and how they play the trade deadline given that reality.
Yeah, and obviously that's kind of the ever-present looming thing is the MLB trade deadline. I mean, we're, a month away? I think it's August 1st.
Yes, August 2nd or August 1st or something like that.
It's always ever-present, especially after last year. I think it's fair to say it was an unprecedented fire sale. But they aren't, because they aren't that far out of contention for the AL Central or a wild card berth, is it possible that this year is different? Say you're the Pohlats, you got a blank checkbook. Just ask him.
I don't think we're going to see them be heavy buyers,
but not buyers. Are they buyers, sellers, or stay the same-ers?
So, I'll be surprised if they're do nothingers. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay. I would be also surprised if they're heavy buyers. They might be light buyers. I could see them trying to make a couple of trades to get a couple of relief arms. That which we have been talking about since literally the trade deadline last year, for the last year, throughout the entire offseason, throughout spring training, through this entire year up to this point. As they just grab guys off of the waiver wire to try them in our bullpen over and over and over again.
Yeah. Some of those games, I felt like they're going to ask me. There's 12 people in the stands. I thought they were going to pull me out of it.
That's right. Yeah, my dislocated shoulder got let me out of it. I wouldn't be shocked if we see them try to do that. I also wouldn't be shocked if they do kind of a little bit of a two-step, meaning they unload some guys to acquire different guys, for instance. Right now we talked about all these guys at AAA that we want to see. Well, they all play generally corner outfield spots. And they've got corner outfielders. They've got Trevor Larnach, who's doing pretty well, but also might not be on the team next year because even though he might be a little too expensive to offer arbitration. And then they've got Keishel playing in right field or something, and they want to have him to have some time there. So would they trade Larnach away, which would make the team worse this year, but then use it to acquire a starting pitcher? So you're not parading out Mike Paredes on the mound every 5th inning, and then you call up Walker Jenkins to take over left field for a while, or Rodon, or whatever. You do a little give of this and a little take of that. You're not just a buyer or a seller. You're kind of dealing on both sides. I could see that happening. In fact, honestly, I kind of expect that to happen one way or the other. But they're also, a 4-game losing streak from being clear sellers. If they go into Yankee Stadium and they lose today and they go into Yankee Stadium and get swept, they're 9 games under 500, a week from the All-Star break. And at that point, what is the likelihood they're going to be anywhere close to 500 by the trade deadline? Not great. So then things like, Ryan Jeffers, when he comes back from his injury, who's a free agent at the end of the year, could be available. Joe Ryan, who we saw was, in trade rumors all offseason, trade rumors lasted, and only has 1 year left of team control. He could be somebody they'd be traded. They could be big, and then Trevor Larnach. And I would have also included Anthony Banda, but he just got hurt, so now I'm not. So the truth is that I don't know which way they're going to go. They don't know which way they're going to go.
It's a high wire act right now,
and they are literally on the fulcrum right here. They're on they could fall one way or the other. We'll see.
Now, bonus, I got a million more questions for you.
Okay.
The texters have questions for you.
All right.
It's 64686 if you want to ask bonus some baseball questions. Brandon from New Mexico, he doesn't have a question. He just says, hey, Johnny B, Tristan Gray sucks. That's it. Just relaying that message from Brandon from New Mexico. But I got a million more questions for you. So we're going to take a break. It's the first of the month. We got bills to pay. We're going to send into commercial break, but we'll be right back with a more bonus after this.
I see.
To noon, PA is out. So MF is in. That's Max Fuller, by the way. Maybe not the first thing your mind goes to when you hear MF, so I just got to clarify. Brett Blakemore is here, and we can't get enough of him, so we got bonus time with John Bonus, the Twins geek, the proprietor of a bevy of blogs, including twinsdaily.com.
Hi, kids.
John Bonus, the text line is lighting
actually,
up.
When you say hi, kids, that's actually correct.
Yes, it is correct on almost every show I go on.
Well, that's true.
Even the Power Trip Morning Show, I'm the old guy. Rosen ain't around. I got seniority. Yeah.
But if people saw the way that you move in your day-to-day life, John Bonus, you're younger than a lot of us. I mean, come on. You're younger than a lot of us. You're always out on the move. You're going to the St. Paul Saints tonight? Is that correct?
Especially if they see John Bonus in left field at a Twins game. Then they're really young.
Yeah, that's true. That is correct. Yes. We're hoping to maybe do the 5K before the Saints game tonight, and then maybe catch a little bit of the Saints game. Yeah, that'd be fun. We'll see what the weather has in store for us this afternoon.
That's unbelievable. 5K. I couldn't do it.
You could too.
I couldn't do it.
You could too.
Maybe
we'll just swing by your place on one of them because we run right by your place.
Oh, okay.
We'll just swing by there, grab you.
Yeah, right. And I'll do like 2.5. You know, can I join midway through?
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Right.
Bonus. Before we get into the Twins, specifically, I'm curious because I read the other day MLB viewership / interest it's up this year. It's up kind of big time. 44% is the number that I read. But is that -3 is bigger than -10 kind of thing, or what? Yeah. What does up mean for baseball? Because it was down there for a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
what does up mean?
I don't. I'll be honest with you. I haven't checked out what the percentages are right now in terms of how much it's up. I know it's up overall across the league. I know it's down for the Twins or attendance and so on and viewership because obviously they kind of gutted the team a little bit.
Right.
I will say this. It would be just like Major League Baseball to see a little bit of a renaissance going on with, interest and crowd getting into it and so on. Just as we're heading into the last year of a collective bargaining agreement that's likely going to head into a labor stoppage over the offseason,
right?
Which is almost assuredly what is happening. There's
no chance, basically.
I mean, I think there's very little chance. Now, you can have a labor stoppage in, I presume it's December 1st, which is what it was last time we did this, and not affect the baseball season that much. You're just kind of affecting the baseball off season, which, is different for those of you that are trying to, for teams that are trying to sign free agents and build a team. That's a little bit of a bummer, but it doesn't necessarily affect the viewing experience, and you might even be back and have it solved before spring training. In general, that's not the way it works. Last time that did that, December 1st, there was basically no talks at all through December and January. And, most of February was, the beginning of spring training was slow. I think they ended up, basically resolving things like the first week of March, second week of March, spring training began. That's almost a month late. And then there was a flurry of free agents and trades and such that included the Twins trading away Josh Donaldson and signing Carlos Correa to a 1-year deal within a week's period of time in the middle of what would normally have been towards the end of spring training. And then the season started a week late and then went a week later. Would I be surprised if we get something like that again? Not at all. But I will say that both sides seem to understand they're going to be tackling bigger issues than we normally get at this. The discussion about, putting on a harder salary cap on the top, and especially this discussion about establishing a lower salary floor on the bottom, is a very interesting conversation if you're somebody who's, tired of watching the Dodgers spend $500 million or $400 million a year and, Cleveland spends 60.
Right.
It's just hard to have a competitive league that way. And we're seeing some of those results in how many teams from lower market teams make the postseason, and how many of them make it to the World Series, and how many of them win World Series. And so, it could be I think Major League Baseball is going to shoot itself in the foot with a labor stoppage again, despite the fact that it's up. I just hope that the pain is worth it when they come out on the other side.
I'm surprised they even have any toes left with all the times that they've shot themselves in the foot at this point.
That is a fair point. Yeah, they look a little like Creasel.
Yeah. Shout out to our man JK, John Creasel. Where are you on the salary cap, salary floor thing? Because also,
I think it's time.
From the Major League Baseball's point of view, do they not want the Dodgers in?
Well, that's a good question.
Don't they want the Dodgers and the Yankees in the? If they could have it that way, don't you think they'd want the Dodgers and the Yankees in the World Series every single freaking year?
So the real debate here, on the one hand, the players are like, we absolutely don't want a salary cap.
Yeah,
absolutely don't want it. Right. But they're able to listen to things, I think, a little bit, and part of that is because the people who tend to be that representative for the players union tend to be the best players.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the best players are worried about getting the biggest biggest amount of money they can have,
right.
And they're the ones who are likely to be running into a salary cap on the top end, right? But the real debate here becomes on both sides, within both camps, is where the real debate goes on. The large market owners would love to have a salary cap, right?
Yeah.
And the lower market owners, the lower market owners would love to have a salary cap, but they don't want to have a salary floor.
Mm.
The Yankees would love to, not have a salary cap, but they want the salary floor. They want because what ends up happening right now is in the Major League on the owner side, the really rich teams end up paying a luxury tax when they go over the salary cap. That luxury tax ends up being paid to the teams that aren't going over the salary cap.
Okay.
The surest way to make money in Major League Baseball is to not field a competitive team.
Pull it.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so people understand the incentive structure is all messed up. Mm-hmm. The teams that are, spending 200, the Twins can jump up and try to spend, 100 but even when they signed Correa, even in 2023, when they had a $150 million payroll, they still weren't at an average payroll for Major League Baseball, right? But you can go up there and kind of do that for a little while, but you do that and maybe, don't make as much money as you would because you're spending it on payroll, even though you've got, decent fan revenues, because when the cycle comes around and you sell all those players, you're going to be getting $100 million check written to you by the richest clubs because you're on the other side of the field, in the other dugout. Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, on the player side, they're also debating that. Like, you've got the really rich players who are like, yeah, we really don't want a salary cap. And you get the other, long-term veterans who are like, yeah, but we would really like a salary floor, and I'd trade a salary cap for it. I'm not worried about bumping into the salary cap on this end. I'm worried about the fact that I've got that I'm always going to be replaced by a rookie for $800,000 because, I've got, because there's so many teams that just don't care to compete anymore. They would just as soon have a rookie and not pay me. So there's a lot of debate within both camps to kind of figure that out. And we'll see if they can figure it out. My default position is that year after year after year, collective bargaining agreement after collective bargaining agreement, we talk about this changing, and it never does because it's too hard.
Right.
And the pressure becomes too much to just start the season, and everybody's making money. What are we fighting about?
Yeah, exactly.
That is ultimately what I feel is going to end up happening again. We'll see.
We'll see, John Bonus. We were supposed to see to the listeners' questions in this segment, but we didn't. You got one more in you, John Bonus? You got one more?
You're talking about Tristian Gray.
Yeah, which, by the way, Brandon from New Mexico has chimed in again. He says, hey, Johnny B., even after this segment, Tristan Gray still sucks. Sucks in all caps, by the way. Some people might say the same thing about me filling in for 9 to noon. But we still got another hour and a half. We're about halfway through. We got more John Bonus. Julia Daniels will be joining us in the mix. Brett Blakemore is going to give us our World Cup preview. You already decked out in USA red, white, and blue.
Yes, sir. There's plenty of wrestling bits to get into as well.
Oh, we're gonna talk some wrestling.
Breaking news on Raw.
Oh, really?
Well, just that they completely didn't do what we thought they were going to do after worst case scenario on Sunday.
Yeah, much like the MLB, the WWE also tends to shoot themselves in the foot
quite
often, and we just gave them props on Sunday, and by Monday we were already scorning them again.
Did they shoot themselves in the foot?
That's what we call a tease in the business. Yeah. More 9 to noon after this.
We are just as surprised as you.
This is typically the segment on the 9 to noon program where we do news to Nord. We do sports essentials, Brett's Bits and Bets, Max Musings, whatever we call it. And it's sponsored by Canterbury Park. You can feel the felt. There's live racing there. You can see PA in his giant binoculars, or you can see Nordo playing blackjack, feeling the felt. Canterbury Park brings you sports essentials, news to Nord, Brett's Bets and Bits, and Max's Musings. Canterbury Park.
Speaking of Brett's Bits, Max Philly here, by the way, joined by Brett Blakemore, John Bonus, Julia Daniels in just a second. You have a bit over there, Brett Blakemore. You have a bit of wild news update?
So it's an update where basically it's come out from, I don't know the quality of the source, but it's got people talking.
Okay.
So his name's, I don't even know how to pronounce it. I apologize. Nick, he's an author, hockey author. Nick, I'm going to go with Kyprios.
Sounds right.
Anyways. Basically, he said that the Red Wings would have no problem trading Larkin to the Wild if the Wild sent Matt Boldy the other way.
Oh, that's not...
And here's the collective response from the state of hockey. Really good.
Bill Guerin, when they call and ask that, boo, 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 boo.
Yeah, exactly. Just hang the
That's
phone
not
up.
happening, right? I'm not an elite hockey mind like you, but Matt Boldy's, he's the real deal, Holyfield.
We're not getting rid of Matt Boldy on a favorable contract. Kevin Gork tweeted, I will also have no problem trading in my 2021 Corolla for a new 2026 RAV4. So, which he is spot on with that. I think everyone in the state of hockey, Russo, Gorg, Fallness, everyone is saying, yeah, that's not happening. We're not getting rid of Matt Boldy.
That would basically just, you're replacing Matt Boldy's like the second best player on the team, right? After Kaprizov, and then it's a lateral move at best, right? Like it's not really, you're not getting
on a worse
better.
contract.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even say it's a lateral move. I think Matt Boldy's a better player. There's a reason Matt Boldy was playing top minutes on USA and Dylan Larkin was a role player on USA. Now, that was an all-star team, right, so everyone's got to play roles. And Dylan Larkin would absolutely be our number one center in a heartbeat and solve our problems. He ain't Matt Boldy, and people saying that he should go for a similar package to Quinn Hughes. He ain't Quinn Hughes either. So he's good, but he's not that good.
Okay.
So it's not worth that's not worth it.
Interesting.
So we're going to have to look elsewhere. Hopefully in Toronto, they start booing Austin Matthews again in that building, and he want to get out, and then we can go after him.
Form a little super team.
Can you imagine?
We are going to talk some Minnesota Wild tomorrow because we're back. Worst case scenario is back tomorrow. We got Marissa Voss of TwinsDaily.com. Coming on,
awesome. Yes.
coming on to join us. We met her at the old Twins Media Day.
Yep.
She was very entertained by TC Bear picking out you boys after.
Fairly sure she was at the St. Paul Saints game last night, checking that out. So.
She's at like every game. I mean,
she's a
she's a giant room for the Twins and Minnesota Wild. So I'm curious to see you guys as two elite Minnesota Wild minds joining together. And
as long as we don't talk about Connor Dewar, I think we'll be okay. So,
what's the deal with Connor Dewar?
Well, she's diehard Connor Dewar fan.
And you're not.
Well, I just thought he was a fourth liner, which which he was.
So we might throw some hands tomorrow in the studio is what you're saying. We're going to tease it for the listeners.
We might throw some words.
Throw some words. All right. It's no Bloods and Crips situation going on in the studio.
Plus, I know which side I'm putting my money on. Marissa.
Marissa's got some energy. She's got some energy, dog.
Oh, so much.
Yeah, she might hit you with some WWE moves. Speaking of WWE.
Is that because I made fun of your Shohei bit earlier?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which, of course, the text line,
still
of course,
feel robbed about that.
Yeah. I don't know how that you didn't. That's the all-time number one seed if you did an all-time preposterous statement
Honest to
tournament.
God.
That's the all-time number one. Of course, someone in the text line asked again, would Shohei Ohtani be a good fit for the Minnesota Twins? I'm sure you get that everywhere you go at this point. It is the hottest take of all hot takes in the history of hot takes.
I got robbed.
When that came out,
Effing Thielen.
when that came out, were you like, uh-oh? Because I've had that happen where I say something super like, oh gosh, like I'm gonna have to hear about that.
Right. Or it's like it's not even in the moment. It's actually when you hear the audio back in the tournament. When I was like, did I really say Rob Dillingham is the next Allen Iverson?
There was.
Like I really said that.
Did I say Lil Wayne is the modern day Beatles?
He is. He was to me. I meant it. Damn it. I still stand by that. Lil Wayne is my Paul McCartney. I mean that with all my heart and soul.
Ludacris, Ringo Starr.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Kanye West was somebody. Yeah. Whichever one of them turned out to not go the wrong way. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Maybe a little Morrissey. Yeah. I think they're both in the same camp.
Did you regret that though? Like, could you feel it on the way out? Like you're throwing an interception?
There is some context around that statement that I put. Now, you heard the clip, but you didn't hear the context. The context was other teams will give more than the Twins for him because other teams are looking for both the pitching and the hitting side, where at that point the Twins are really looking for the hitting side. That was the only context.
He's still a pretty good pitcher, though.
He was, he wasn't quite the truth was at that time that the Twins' rotation was pretty loaded, and to the point where, like I said, other teams would just give more. It was sort of the point. But yes, it didn't. I apparently was not as clear about that as I needed to do. And it made for a great. It's easy to just grab that clip right out of there.
Yeah. Context be damned.
Exactly right.
Yeah, Connor McDavid. We've already got guys to play center.
Right. Exactly.
Our center depth loaded.
Me and Parker could have started the show to say, to hell with LeBron James. We don't need him. we absolutely don't need him, but we do need John Bonus to provide his elite Twins analysis. And speaking of the Twins pitching, John Bonus, to borrow a phrase from the legendary Dennis Green. They are who we thought they were, for sure. But I do want to, before we get to that, because that's the A top. That's what everybody. It's overblown. I'm sure you're sick of talking about the bullpen. Am I wrong in saying that spotty defensive play is just as culpable for these Twins' blown leads as the bullpen? I mean, obviously the bullpen is the main culprit there. You know, Colonel Mustard and the laboratory with the candlestick or whatever. But spotty defensive play is a huge factor in why this team is so streaky. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. I think if you could, I think the entire staff would have. I think we'd actually crunched the numbers the other day at Twins Daily. I think a quarter run less ERA if the defense was just merely average.
Right.
You know, the difference between the bullpen and the infield is that they've tried to make changes to the infield, right? If you take a look at the starting infield these days, none of the four guys at any of the four positions were there who their opening day, right? Royce Lewis was not. Royce Lewis was at third. Now he's at first. Brooks Lee was at shortstop. Now he's at third. Both of those are moves down the defensive spectrum to a area that they're probably going to be better defensively at, right? The starting shortstop was Brooks Lee at short, and now it's a mixture of Tristan Gray and Kreidler, and that's why the Gray antagonists are out, is because they're tired of seeing Tristan Gray there, and frankly, I am too.
Brandon from New Mexico, by the way, he says he wishes me that I'm doing better, and he said even when Paul Allen returns to the airwaves, you guessed it, Tristan Gray will still suck.
Yeah, the question is, where will he be sucking? Because I wouldn't be totally shocked to see him within the next 48 hours sent down to St. Paul. They've got with Buxton out for the next 4 or 5 days, what they're doing is they're putting Ryan Kreidler in center field. That's fine, except then Ryan Kreidler can't play shortstop, and therefore Tristan Gray's going to play shortstop. That makes a little bit of sense. You can argue that makes sense versus a right-handed pitcher, because versus a right-handed pitcher, Tristan Gray's a left-handed hitter. And for the most part, Derek Shelton has been platooning those two, which means you're getting probably a little bit more Tristan Gray at shortstop than you're getting Ryan Kreidler at shortstop. Ryan Kreidler's right-handed, Tristan Gray's left-handed, and you face more right-handed pitching. So the left-handed hitting guy's going to play more. So what the problem is, now with Buxton out, Kreidler's being playing center field. That means more Tristan Gray. They do have a bunch of guys in AAA that could be playing some center field, right? And could take some spots. And they also have, Kyler Fedko, who is a right-handed hitting guy on the roster. Now, he hasn't gotten a hit yet. I think he's got like 12 at-bats. He was called up about a week and a half ago. Who could be a right-handed player playing center field, and you could still put Ryan Kreidler there. I just wouldn't be totally shocked if they call up one of these left-handed hitting prospects they have, whether it's Rodin or Jenkins, to help out while Buxton is sidelined with this hip problem in center field, because they can play center field. Platoon them with Fedko, and to make room on the roster, they decide, we'll have Tristan Gray in St. Paul for a little while. I don't know that's necessarily likely in the next hour, but they do have two left-handed pitchers that they're facing in the next series versus the Yankees, and you don't really want Tristan Gray on the field for those, so maybe we'll see something happen there. We'll see.
So is that,
but back to the starting to the pitching thing. Yeah, the bullpen has been the difference between the infield defenses and the bullpen is they've found things to do to kind of start to fix the infield defense. You've got Brooks Lee moving positions. You've got Royce Lewis moving positions. You've got Luke Keeschel moving out of the infield into right field now. You've got Cody Clemens taking over second base, and now you've got a platoon in shortstop as opposed to Brooks Lee, with the potential of Kalen Culpepper coming up and fixing things at shortstop defensively as well. And in fact, you can even see a future in like 2027 where they have a glove first shortstop who was their first round draft pick that they just promoted to AA. His name is Merrick Houston. Merrick Houston, the question is not whether Merrick Houston can be a really good defensive shortstop in the major leagues. He can. The question is whether or not he can hit well enough to be a major league shortstop be a major league shortstop. And so far he has been surprisingly good at both low A and high A. And now he's at AA. So this time next year, would I be shocked if Merrick Houston is your shortstop, Kalen Culpepper is your second baseman, Brooks Lee is at third, Royce Lewis is at first, and you've got an above-average infield defense? I would not be shocked by that. But, that's a journey.
Yeah.
Right? A similar journey that they have had more trouble traveling has been the bullpen.
Right.
And that's because, yes, they have shuffled a lot around, but basically, you're shuffling it around with guys that you're picking up off the waiver wire. Now, part of that is, because you occasionally strike gold when you do that. And, in fact, the Twins closer right now, Yoendris Gomez, as one of those guys. He's been really good, right? But, you had to put up with, a lot of, I don't know, Zach Kent and Luis Garcia and, various other waiver wire pickups to find the one that you've got in there. And on top of that, beyond that, you would have expected them by this point to maybe try to throw some of their minor league starting pitchers into that role. That's how they got Joan Duran. That's how Griffin Jacks ended up being really good. We've seen a little bit of that. Andrew Morris now looks like the eighth inning guy that they're counting on. He was a starter with St. Paul at the beginning of the year, got called up, long relief, has been transitioned to a high leverage role. We might be seeing something similar with Marco Raya, who was just called up this week. He was a starter through the minors up until late last year. They've kind of switched him to reliever, and now, he had some really good success in St. Paul in May and June. I've got some hopes that we'll see something from him. You've seen Kendry Rojas, who is also a starter, and frankly, I think they still want him to be a starter, and I think that's why he went back down to St. Paul, but he's somebody that has shown some promise. But the reality is you still got, a bunch of guys who haven't really taken a big step forward, and as a result, you still have, numbers 3 through 8 in your bullpen you don't really trust. And, yeah, Taylor Rogers, some of the free agent signings they've had, like Taylor Rogers, hasn't really worked out. Eric Orzi, okay. Funderburk never really took a big step forward. Yeah. So that one problem is, you can see a solution. The other problem, I don't see a solution. And that solution might have to wait until the trade deadline.
And if you can't see it, then who can?
Well,
John Boner.
Yeah. I mean, the Twins tend to squint a lot.
Yeah. Oh, right. They might need to borrow some bifocals from your boy for that. But in terms of let's stick with the pitching here. How do you feel about the starting rotation? This is a time of year where we're all giving out grades right now. I see on twinsdaily.com, they got grades for different position groups for the Minnesota Twins. And I believe the starting pitching rotation got a B on twinsdaily.com because, you still got Joe Ryan in the midst. Taj Bradley has kind of been a mixed bag so far. Obviously, Bailey Ober is hurt right now, which I want to ask you about that. Coming back soon, right? Yeah,
I mean, he had one rehab start already. I'm guessing he's going to have at least a second rehab start. I wouldn't be shocked if he only has a second rehab start, and then we bring him back up there. The truth is they just run out of pieces on their rotation.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do when we enter spring training with what we thought were 8 legitimate starting pitchers that could be in the rotation. We had
that hope lasted about 24 hours.
We were pretty sure not all the 8 were going to be in the starting rotation. We thought, we're going to have plenty of reinforcements at AAA. Well, within 3 weeks, number 9 from that list was a regular starter, and that's Connor Prelep, and he's been sticking around.
Yeah.
Right? And Mike Paredes, who's been making start after start for the last month and a half, I think he was number 15 or something, on that list. They have just been beat up by injuries, starting with literally day 1 of spring training, where Pablo Lopez goes down and needs Tommy John surgery for the year. But Joe Ryan has had a pretty good year. Last night's 4th inning, notwithstanding.
Yeah, that was brutal. I was telling you, I went to bed. They had a 3-0 lead, and all of a sudden, Yordan Alvarez, Air Yordan.
Yeah, it was it was kind of goofy. It was the Keanu Reeves quicksand speech from The Replacements, where if one thing goes wrong and then another, and pretty soon you're just in over your head and what's the name is taking you deep to right field for a grand slam after being 0 for 17 in his previous 4 games or something. Yeah, it went bad in a hurry for poor Joe Ryan there, and especially an ABS play to do it too. It was just a nightmare. But yes, what I think the biggest takeaway you can take from sort of the starting rotation is a lot of these guys are young. You've got Joe Ryan, and then you've got 3 guys that are holding their own, some of which have looked really good at times, and you can see them being the core for a 2027 team or core for a 2028 team that's pretty good. Now, you've also had some complete washouts like Simeon Woods Richardson, who I would have thought would have been part of that core, and he was DFA'd, and then he went to the Blue Jays, and then they DFA'd him. So I just don't know what happened to Simeon Woods Richardson.
Yeah.
And then you've got a bunch of guys who've been promising but hurt. Number 1 being Mick Abel, who now is going back to undergoing a slight arthroscopic elbow surgery, I think, or something like that. He
could call him
really
Mick unable.
Yes, exactly. Well played.
Thank you.
So I think there's still a lot to like there, and they've been kind of holding their own. Hopefully we'll get Bailey Ober back in 2-3 weeks. They just can't take any more hits.
Yeah.
If another one goes down, I think we're going to see more Kendry Rojas in there, and he was probably number 10 or 11 on that list. So it's just been a hard, and that, by the way, has also played into the bullpen. Right. I think we would have seen some of these guys transition to a bullpen role, or at least taking the 2-3 inning role in the bullpen. Now we need them in the rotation.
Yeah. 100%. And you mentioned it when in the first segment that we had John Boner. So we're kind of damsels in distress, Twins fans. We're looking for a savior. We're always from the hitting standpoint. And some of these guys haven't fully panned out. I mean, Luke Keeschel, we kind of thought he had a crazy hot start to his professional career last year, but he has not really panned out the way we thought. Royce Lewis he's got more ups and downs than the Wild thing at Valley Fair right now. Matt Wallner. I mean, what is kind of your overall outlook on these guys that haven't panned? And I think Keesel's he's been better as of late. Royce Lewis has been better as of late. But what is kind of your standpoint with those guys and where we need them to be / where they are?
I mean, it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not easy to move up from AAA and in the majors and have a immediate impact. And weirdly enough, a lot of these guys did just that. Like they looked for the first 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 2 years, like in Royce Lewis's case.
Yeah.
This is going to be a thriving, or Edward Julien's case. For almost an entire year, we're like, we've got something here.
Right.
We'll put up with his defense at second base because look at what we got. Now he has a down year, and then he has a down couple months, and then he has a downtime in AAA, and now he's a Colorado Rocky. It's the Twins, for whatever reason, now maybe whereas they've had some success moving pitchers up and keeping them in the majors. Keeping them healthy has been maybe another problem, but keeping them in the majors has been promising. They just haven't had a lot of big hits on the hitting side. Mm-hmm. They haven't shown that whatever preparation they're doing with them in the minor leagues can last long term in the major leagues. And I think I presume that is something they are wrestling with. I think that is maybe part of the reason you saw a coaching change last year, halfway through it. I mean, they'd already made changes to the hitting coach, the year before.
Right.
And then this year they made the change to a different manager. I do feel like, they've had, I think there were 4 or 5 guys that we were kind of looking at to see. We called them the post-hype prospects. Like these are guys that were prospects, and then they looked real good, and then they fall into we're wondering about them, and we need them to move up or move down. But one way or the other, they're going to have to get out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? Either take a spot and run with it now for the next 2 or 3 years, or let's bring up somebody who does. And there's enough other options down there about people who can. You've had some clear misses like Wallner, although he, by the way, is tearing it up at AAA again now, and also could be knocking on the door to end up taking a corner spot. Brooks Lee has been sort of treading water. Trevor Larnach is a little better than treading water. Royce Lewis has been down and then up, and all sold, I guess, kind of treading water.
Yeah.
And so, the bottom line is that Major League Baseball kind of requires you to grow or go, right? If you're not growing, you're going to start getting more expensive. And at some point you become too expensive that if you haven't grown enough, you're just gone. I wouldn't be shocked if, a lot of those guys, some of them have to continue growing to stick around for the 2027 and 2028, to be on the 2027, 2028, and especially 2029 team. And the Twins have to figure out some way to make that work, and they haven't really had a lot of success in doing that.
No, they haven't had a lot of success.
I will say this. It does feel to me like the Royce Lewis bounce back had
a big hit in front of Ludacris, by the way, the other day.
Yeah, exactly.
He did it for Luda.
Which I'm sure he valued. Yeah. Right. I will say this. I just feel like Shelton and Zoll are making more moves, more aggressive moves than Rocco and Falvey did. At least in terms of like fixing this infield defense. It feels like they're trying to be a little more aggressive in terms of moving players around, not trying to expect too much of them, etc., finding a way that they can work. I don't know if the results are that much different.
Are you happy with Shelty so far? Speaking of him, halfway through I
haven't. I was in the clubhouse a lot in spring training. I have not been there at all during the season here. So
you've just been in the club, right?
Yeah. Or my house.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I can't say that I've seen it up close. I think in general he's squeezing about as much out of this team as he can squeeze, and I think some of the different emphases that he has made are decent, have worked out pretty well. They're not a fast team, but he's gotten them to be a little bit more aggressive on the bases. And I think overall that's probably worked better than it hasn't. And I think, you are seeing some players kind of gradually find themselves, which is nice to see. So all in all, so far I think he's been doing a good job. I'd like to see him stick around. Yeah. He seems to know what he's doing. He
seems like a really cool dude, which he's a very cool dude. It's not right. For nothing, right?
But Rocco was a very cool dude, too.
Right, exactly. Yeah, he's still got to get the results. That's right. Gina from Bemidji, possibly pronounced a different way, but I'm not sure.
Bemidji or Gina?
Gina.
Okay.
She says, trying to provide context as why the Twins didn't need Shohei Ohtani because pitching wasn't the club's need is like the captain of the Titanic saying, icebergs aren't our problem. We're really focused on making sure we have enough ice in everyone's drinks. They're never going to let you live it down, John Bodas.
That's all right. I'm angry that I did. Dan Hayes has got a preposterous winning tournament with a much worse preposterous statement, and I got robbed. So.
I still think it's the all-time leader in the clubhouse. Yeah. You're the all-time leader in our clubhouse.
I'm like every other Minnesota sports team. Yeah. The very best. Somehow misses that.
We can't even be the best at being the worst. John Bodas, you're the best. Are you gonna hang out for another segment? Get to know Julia Daniels a little bit more? Okay, all right, cool. We got Carol Evans, Julia Daniels around the corner. Brett Blakemore is gonna give us Brett, what do you think about the marathon segment being your chance to just let loose on the World Cup?
I'm about that. England's about to kick off for the Congo right now. So yeah, we'll just do some live
England
updates on that.
Versus the Democratic Republic of Congo, a.k.a. Dr. Congo. We're going to have Dr. Blakemore diagnose the U.S. soccer team around the corner. More 9 to noon in a sec.